Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Guberman Appleby Immigration Lawyer YouTube channel. Today we're doing a segment basically about immigration in the news, since we've started to see a lot more coverage of immigration issues, both Canadian and US, in the media lately, print media, social media, television news as well. We thought that it's a good idea and something interesting and topical that we'll be talking about articles or media pieces that we've seen that we think warrant discussion. So today's first installation of this new segment is going to be discussing a New York Times article from last week that was entitled "Tourists' Detentions at the US Border, What International Visitors Should Know." So we're going to recap the article a little bit, but also talk about the increase in calls that we've received, probably as a result of a lot of these articles in the past week, and just, give you our opinion, give you some tips. So Joel, you read this article, which kind of highlighted some particular issues. There was a 28-year-old British woman who was held at a detention center in Washington State after she tried to enter the US from Canada. There's been a lot of repeated mentions of two German tourists that were deported when they were trying to enter the US from Mexico. And of course, there was the case not cited in this article, but that also has become very notorious in the past couple of weeks with respect to a Canadian woman who tried to enter the US, I think it was down at the San Diego border from Tijuana, and ended up in the whole US quagmire of immigration detention for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, these articles have certainly created a mood of some degree of panic in the world to enter the United States. In some real respect, this has been going on for years and years and years. People are turned away at the U.S. border, at airports. People are detained. But in today's world, the mood of the Trump administration panic permeates everything. So now it's front page news. It wasn't front page news 10 years ago or even 1 year ago when someone was detained at the border. I think it's a little bit overblown, but we can go through some of the things one should do and not do.
Okay, fair enough. So when you're just thinking about going into the US, it's still the same as any other trip. And the bottom line is you need to be prepared, you need to be smart, and you need to be truthful. This article is specifically dealing with tourists. So if you're going to the United States as a tourist, what can you do? You can go to Disney, you can go see a play in New York, you can go hiking in Arizona. These are all perfectly permissible tourist activities. When you're going to the United States as a tourist, you cannot work, you cannot study. So don't do these things, and also don't have things on your phone like a job offer. So then this gets to another thing that was mentioned, not in this particular article, but in a different article, that said typically less than 0.01% of international travelers arriving to the US had their devices searched. Last week, I think I had at least a call a day asking about device searches.
Well, device searches, as we know, has been in existence forever. I mean, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection and the Canadian border, people can search phones at will and at random, and they are not, however, permitted to go into websites that you have been looking at. They have to look at what is actually on the phone or on the computer. They can't search beyond what you've searched. But people traveling in particular to the United States, because of all the attention to it, just shouldn't have stupid stuff on their computer and phone. I mean, it sort of begs the imagination as to what someone is going to put on their phone or on their computer that should cause a problem at the U.S. border. Just don't do it. To your point, if you're going in as a tourist, don't have your job search. Because if you do have your job search, then you should be telling them, I'm going to the United States to look for a job. I have several interviews. That would be the truth. That would feed what was on your phone or on your computer. So this is rather simplistic, but if there's stuff on your phone that you think Customs and Border Protection will be concerned about, don't have it there.
Well, not only don't have it there, then it probably is in, if it's something you're worried about, then you're probably not planning to tell the truth when you're crossing the border.
I mean, it's few and far between that searches of phones and computers cause any real problem.
Right, and I mean, I think it's probably because, again, reported in the media, there have been a few examples where people have been penalized by U.S. immigration for their views and perspectives on certain issues. So I did have one call last week where someone was worried because on their phone they had, or maybe it was in their social media, but it was someone who had been pretty vocal in their opinion, excuse me, regarding Trump and his campaign and, you know, views and things like that. So, I mean, you can't change what's out there or what your opinion is, but people have been voicing concern that, you know, is the U.S. immigration also kind of turning into a little bit of the thought police?
Yeah, and that may be the case, but it shouldn't be. I mean, your views are your views, unless there's something behind them that is more nefarious. That should never be a cause for being refused entry to any country or what your views are, unless you have to go beyond a view to actually stop you from entering these countries. I think more to the point is what's happening in the media has caused a degree of panic out there. We've had, as you indicated, we've had numerous phone calls about, should I not be going to the United States now? Is now not a good time? Some of our actual business clients are saying, should we not have our business people going to the United States? And that just is not the case. But some technical stuff, if you're really worried, and I had a phone call from a wonderful woman this morning who was very afraid to go to the United States. She said, should I go through the airport as opposed to a land port of entry? Well, in fact, yes, because if you're a pre-flight inspection leaving from Canada going to the United States, they can deny you entry for whatever, hopefully appropriate reason they are denying you, but they can't detain you. So you can't be put in jail, you can't be held at an airport in Canada. You're still in Canada. Even though you're seeking to enter the United States, that pre-flight inspection for both the U.S. purposes prevents undesirables from getting into the United States, but on the flip side, if you should have been detained, you can't be in Canada. So if you want to be safe, fly out of an airport in Canada.
Right, well, and then I think that also warrants sort of clarification that while, of course, you can run into issues at pre-clearance, so in Canada, we have U.S. Customs and Border Protection inside our international airports where you effectively go through the U.S. border while you're still in Canada. The consequences of an issue at the airport are far less severe than if you're crossing at a land border, where if you run into an issue and something really goes awry, you can be barred from the U.S. on the spot. So I think that's something worth bearing in mind as well.
Yeah, the tool at the land ports of entry is called expedited removal, which is an instantaneous deportation and usually a bar from the United States for 5 years. Airports can't do an expedited removal because you're still on Canadian soil, but if there's a misrepresentation or a false statement, you can be charged with a section called 212A6C, which essentially is fraud and misrepresentation, and the result is that you won't be able to get into the United States going forward, maybe even forever.
Okay, so if you do want to check out the article that we sort of spun this conversation off from, it was in the New York Times. Again, it was called Tourist Detentions at the U.S. Border, What International Visitors Should Know. As I mentioned at the top of this segment, we're going to be doing other YouTube posts that keep you up to date on current immigration issues in the media, and we hope you will join us again. You can follow our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on our other social media handles on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and of course you're always welcome to send us a DM at any time, or send your queries to info@gaimmlaw.com, or of course pick up the phone and give us a ring, 416-548-7100, and we always look forward to connecting with you. Thanks so much.